They were perfect.
Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I am Adam Emmert, joined today by my good buddy Clinton Bonner, as Brandon Schultz is out with some of the flockers there to watch what was a ugly loss, 31-10 to the Bills. Clinton, I don't know exactly where to go with this, and much like Topwater has here in the comments, where do you start? It was a game that was, in my opinion, lost starting in about the middle of the second quarter, and a team that totally unraveled. I don't know if there's anything in particular that stuck in your craw, but to me, it was almost more just a comedy of errors compounding one upon another.
The entire craw is stuck, Adam. I don't know how else to put it, man. UGLY. We ain't got no alibi for this one, brother. This I saw it in our Discord, and I would remind folks, Seahawkers podcast. So youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. We still want you in the Discord because that's where we talk about everything, good, bad, ugly. But I forget who it was in the Discord. I can go look. I just can't do it right now. I'll try and retrieve it later. They're like, oh, this reminds me of the Ravens game last year. And the thing that really stuck in my craw is Schneider being like, we had that Ravens game, and I was like, never again, essentially, right? Like, that's never going to happen again. I will give all the grace to the new coaches and not, go off a bridge like a lemming with the new coaches. But again, just happened, Adam. That was exactly the same thing. Horrible, horrible display. Very little good, tons bad, and we got to talk about it.
Yeah, we do have to talk about it. I would actually push back on it being exactly like the Ravens game in the sense that early on in the football game, the Bills actually were playing so sloppily that they actually gave the Seahawks a chance to be in this game. A team that is better than the Seahawks, and they came in and they started to play sloppy right out of the gate, whether it was Josh Allen's pick or the fumble that he didn't come up, or that he managed to come back up with, or all the penalties. And the Seahawks defense, after that first drive, got a couple stops. They get the pick. Seahawks are right there, 7-3, ready to try to punch it in. And then Connor Williams loses the football game in the second quarter. I've never seen a center lose an entire half of football for a football team, but that was atrocious. And the reason why it's different than the Ravens game is that I felt like the offense couldn't do anything against the Ravens, like not one thing. Where I felt like more in this game, the defense started to unravel in the second half, and then it was just over. So I just think the style of it was a little different in terms of ugly points. Very equal. Sure. Yeah, I'll give that to you.
Yeah. All right. So let's you went to the Connor Williams bad snap, and then the tripping on his own player with Gino. So completely defunct in the 5 yards and in red zone there, where you've got to come away with 7, especially against a good team. But I want to back the truck up a little bit more. And I know you're a big proponent and have been one of the most vocal people, and frankly, not like one of the most honest. Like, people are honest, but I think at this point, 8 games in, one of the most correct in your diagnosis of Grubb in the offseason, being like, hey, I'm not sure if this pass happy and offense, a lot of horizontal, then deep shots, is going to translate to the NFL. Now, again, there's some things, a couple of weeks it looks great. It looks good, at least. There's an off quarter here, an off quarter there, but you get the DK shot to the honey hole last week, and you go, ooh, that's good, right? So again, not piling on. But when we start a game with the football, which is something I loved like 3-4 years now, I'm like, start the game with the football and put some pressure on the team. But when we start the game with the football and we go pass for basically 1 yard with 2 batted passes and punt the ball, I'm hearkening. I feel like I'm living through you being like, oh my God, what are we doing? Why not attempt to establish the run a little bit early? So I want to go back to series 1 and just get in your mind and say, what were you thinking about when you saw Rousseau, a 1 yard freaking out to K9, Rousseau?
Yeah, I think when you start with the first drive, one of the things that was interesting is that they came out and they actually ran some plays under center. So that part, they were formationally doing something that I felt a lot better about.
Yeah.
But then you're right. It was pass, pass, pass. And in their first two drives, really their best play was about a 6-yard run by Kenneth Walker. That was it. After a couple 3-and-outs. I mean, it was ugly football. And kind of to your point, and I don't want to harp on run pass ratio and all that stuff for this particular post game, because I honestly don't think that that's really where the problem lied in this game. This was more an execution problem overall with the team, and a mental toughness component and a discipline situation. But to just kind of put a bow on the style of offense and how this game started and how it got away from this team, there was a quote by Tom Brady in the third quarter of this game. And he said, quote, "That's the problem being in the shotgun and letting them tee off all day."
Yep.
End quote. And it's basically what I've been trying to talk about since the hire, is that when you live in the gun, you're going to die by the gun, and you're a soft football team. And so by the time you get down towards the goal line and you've got to try to jelly it in like they did twice there in the second quarter,
right,
you're not prepared for it. You're not practiced at it. It's not your bread and butter. And that's some of the most important part of a football game. So I think just fundamentally the offense is philosophically flawed. Now, can Grubb learn from that, move forward? I think he probably can. But right now, it's not all working. And the thing is, you got to look at the offensive line in context with all of that as well, because I do think Grubb made an effort after the first drive to try to get the run game going and keep it involved. But the offensive lineman really couldn't execute that, and there was nowhere to go for K9.
Yeah, you made some great points there about Brady. I do want to bring up on screen here, of course, we've got our Ryan 911, our live executive producer with the $9.99 super chat. He says, "Well, probably not going to hang for this one, as I am a positive vibes only, but you guys keep killing it like you have all season long." Ryan, we appreciate it. And we're a little down right now, but I'm not gonna sit there and just dwell on all the crap, but we got to get through it. We do have to face it. Otherwise, I think you'd run the risk of coming off as a Pollyanna if you can't look this one in the mirror and say there was a lot that went wrong. And to your point too, they showed, and thank you, Ryan. They showed a stat later in the game too, what was like shotgun, like under center, and then play action, and that we're 32nd in the league running play action. And it's just, and you don't buy yourself a little bit of time that play action can buy you with an offensive line that's still young and still has holes. And the other piece, the flip side of that coin, like you said, when you're not under center a lot, and then you get within the 3 to 4 to 5 yard line, and you're suddenly under center with Birdie Russell, they can kind of just tee off on that too, because I don't know, there's just no, it's like, okay, we're just, in my opinion, fully showcasing run. And then we run the ball, and we're fully showcasing run, then we run the ball. As opposed to if you're under center throughout the game and you're lacing in play action and you're pulling it back and you're getting to the edge, you're booting and you're doing little levels and just different things around the goal line. This team, in my opinion, Adam, has had, yes, those mistakes were egregious mistakes at the goal line. With that, the plays that led up to them too, we weren't moving the ball. We weren't body moving people either. And I think it's a symptom or a cause, just to what you were saying, dude, is like when you don't do it at the 40-yard line, you don't do it at your own 30-yard line, and you have no threat of play action the entire time, and you get predictable at the 3. Well, guess what? You get predictable in the NFL, and these teams can snuff it out, and then it gets compounded with terrible mistakes, dude.
Yeah. So Sam coming in here with the $12 super chat. Really do appreciate it. As always, Sam, you are amazing. His comment here is Grubb not successful in the NFL because he was successful in college. Can't get off things that don't work in the pros. I think, kind of Clinton, you were speaking to this too. If you don't do it at the 40 and get behind center and be able to run some play action and at least give the illusion that there's multiple things to worry about on any given play, you're going to have problems. I think the problem starts with just the philosophical identity of this offense in terms of being pass happy, soft, out of the gun. And the problem is that it's not just if you don't do it at the 40, you can't do it at the goal line. If you don't do it in training camp, if you don't do it in the preseason, if you don't do it weeks 1 through 4 up until you get to week 8, then you're not going to do it. It's not like at this point, Ryan Grubb can go and be like, you know what? I'm scrapping my philosophy here, and I'm going to go with something that's a little different and trying to get downhill a little bit more and get out of the shotgun a little bit. He can't do it. You've practiced the whole thing differently throughout the entire offseason and throughout the entire now first half of this football season. We're going to have to live as fans with this style of offense, which is going to work against bad teams and against really good teams, especially in weather games.
Yes,
which again is what I was really having a problem with the Grubb hire as a whole. It's going to look like this. So that's just where we're at.
Absolutely. We got Not Alex chiming in saying, I just hate the running out of shotgun, get in I formation and go downhill. And whether it's I formation or even if you're in shotgun, you go pistol or just straight up go under center with 2 tight ends for a little bit. And then you could do some things that we said, pull it down. But your point that you hit on towards the end there, man, about in weather games, first of all, it's Seattle. It's about to be, pitter patter. It's about to be November. Clock changes, gets colder. It just becomes a more aggressive NFL or like toughness needed NFL to succeed late in the season. We see it all the time. We play a Falcons team that's kind of soft, much softer on a super clean track in Atlanta. And lo and behold, we do things like the cutback lanes for K9. They're there. Even in a flu game, they are there. You try to do that same thing against the Bills that are a much more sound and ferocious defense in general, much more aggressive defense. And you try to do that in sloppy weather where you just can't get that kind of traction versus line up and be the aggressor and go from under center and run downhill with a little head of steam. Because Adam, you just can't, K9's game is like going from 0 to 1. Like very few others on this planet can do that. And then getting to an edge and just beating dudes. Paired with really good vision. But when you can't go from 0 to 1 so quickly because it's a sloppy freaking track, you got to notice that, dude. And you got to make a plan to change for that. And that kind of gets me, dude. I wonder if I think you were heading there in a bit, but I wonder if that hits for you too.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about good weather versus bad weather, indoor versus outdoor, in the style of the football team and the style of K9. If you're a power football team like the Bills are offensively, I mean, don't get it twisted. Even their quarterback is a power runner. Like that's what they do. They're straight down your throat in a slashing style offense.
Yep.
You can play in the muck and still play your game. Yes. If you're a shotgun finesse perimeter oriented team, then that relies on speed and quickness, you're going to struggle when things get ugly out there. You're going to struggle when not everything is perfect and clicking within the offense as well. And I think maybe part of that, Clinton, and I'm curious to what you think about this, instead of just banging on Grubb the entire time here, like, how much do you think the problem today was DK not being available?
Oh, I was thinking about that early in the game when there was like a 3-yard out to Bobo that was like not open whatsoever. Maybe the second drive in. And I was thinking about that a little bit there. And I don't know. I don't think it was that consequential. Maybe it was, maybe it would have been huge, but my brain was not saying to me, oh, if only DK. It just wasn't going there. It's just that was not the feeling I was getting. It was, because why? We moved the ball plenty well until we got to like the 5 freaking yard line. So in a football game where it's 7-3, where you get a big interception and you should be going up 10-7, at the very, very worst, you're down a point. And then you don't do it. And then you don't get good defense and they charge down the field and make it 14-3, getting the ball. To me, it's almost game over right there. Now, it wasn't fully game over, but it's like, okay, they're up 2 scores and they're getting the ball. Cool. So to answer it, I don't think for me, Adam, it wasn't like a woe is there's no DK, we're doom feeling. It felt different for me. How about you?
Yeah, the reason I wanted to ask you without trying to put any of my thoughts into your head before asking a question is because no, it did not feel like this was a big DK difference maker kind of game. This was a upfront physical football team or lack thereof type of loss in terms of the offense. And we've talked about the offense quite a bit, Clinton. Right. Let's take it over to the defense here for a minute. I mean, first half, to be honest, it wasn't really terrible. I thought that it was okay. I guess I don't understand Seahawks 17's Simpsons reference here. It sounds like you did get it. Clinton.
Yeah, I could help here. So this is great. It says, and thank you for the Canadian $5. I know we got another one queued up that we got to get to Car also. He's keep it on for a second. Said we looked like the Denver Broncos outside the Simpsons house. For the Simpsons fanatics or just fans out there, that's the end of the Globex episode. So Homer and family, they move to the Pacific Northwest. They take the job and he ends up working for Hank Scorpio, who's actually like a super villain. And he confides in Hank Scorpio. He's like, well, what do you really want to do? Like, he's like asking him at work, what do you really want to do, Homer? And he's like, well, don't laugh, but I always wanted to own the Dallas Cowboys. So anyway, lo and behold, the whole episode happens. And at the very end, he gets a letter and says like, hey, I couldn't get to the Cowboys, but here's the Broncos. And he opens his door and they're just like all the buffoons are tripping over themselves on his lawn. And Homer's mad. Homer's pissed off.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, no, it does feel that way. It does.
Yeah.
Well, before we get off the offense, we've got a comment here from Brandon.
Yeah.
Geno haters coming out of the woodworks. Any trade DK folks still out there? This game could have gone very different if not for self-inflicted screw-ups early on. Yeah. Any thoughts on Geno's day as a whole?
I mean, look, he's fine. He's under a tremendous amount of pressure. He gets the tipped twice interception, but that's also not a good play. Like it's snuffed out. Like that screen that gets intercepted was perfectly covered and snuffed out. But what's a quarterback going to do? He's trying it, So I don't know. I think he was, again, to me, I don't feel like this is, oh my gosh, Geno can't win the big one type thing. He's not a miracle freaking worker. And in my opinion, Adam, and he's not the one not run blocking and also not calling runs to try and establish the game. So I don't know. It just did not feel like our quarterback mattered all that much, which that might be their point and be like, well, you need a quarterback who could get over all this and who's going to matter and yada, yada, yada. And Geno's not going to be that. All right, maybe Geno's not going to play hero ball successfully, but you turn the ball over the way we did, or just stop yourself from success. Whatever. Is Tom Brady? Does he play on stilts, Adam? I'll ask that. Does Tom Brady play on stilts?
No. In fact, I think he really only played on one leg throughout most of his career. Yeah,
right. So that's how I see it. I don't. It's a throwaway game for Geno Smith for me. It's like I can't even really know how to react to it from a point of, did he play good? Did he play bad? There were moments in garbage time and who cares? The rest of it was just like, we as a team were not in the game. So that's how I see it, at least. I'm not sure if you have a difference of opinion with Geno specifically.
No, I'm right lockstep with you. I guarantee you, if you took Josh Allen and swapped him with Geno Smith, it would be 7% better with Josh Allen. Like in that situation, because think about it. Think about when it was the end of last year when the Bills were looking like they were going to miss the playoffs. Mm-hmm. When Ken Dorsey was the offensive play caller, they're throwing the rock all over the yard. You hear the announcers talk about it today in the game that this season they've been pretty much dead even run pass throughout the season. And when they made the switch to Joe Brady last year, late in the year, they emphasized running the football, made the playoffs, and now unceremoniously bounced by the Chiefs, but every other team was as well. But at the end of the day, with this philosophy, with a one-dimensional football team, with an offensive line that has been neglected for as long as John Schneider has gotten his first Super Bowl ring, after he got that, he stopped caring about the offensive line, seemingly. And you add all that up, and it's going to be just really tough, even for somebody like Geno, who I think is an A- quarterback. That they're hard to come by. They're really hard to come by. Is Josh Allen better? Yes, Josh Allen is better, but the margin there is a lot smaller than I think most people realize. And this is more a philosophical issue offensively combined with a lack of physicality in the trenches.
Look, zero arguments in the sense of, and of course, like, yes, Josh Allen is a top 3 quarterback in this league, maybe top 1. He's awesome. He's awesome. And we talked about that all week. We're like, this guy's special, so he's going to do things that just make you mad. And there actually weren't even that many of those. It was more like, all right, he creates a little bit of space and Dawson Knox is wide open down the seam. He creates a little bit of space and Khalil Shakir is wide friggin' open over the middle. He creates a little bit of space, dumps it off to Cook, and Cook is gone for 11. Or he's under center, hands it off to Cook, and the front line's doing work and moving our bodies. Cook, what did Cook end up with? He probably over 100 yards, I think. I think he was over 100. Yeah. And the defensively, I know we talked a lot about the offense. I know Connor Williams' mistakes are egregious and destroyed the half. I get that. And we got the big turnover at a critical moment. So 7-3, we get the pick before we, basically give it back to them. But the defense, when it was 7-3, when we gave the ball back to him, when we needed a stop before halftime, couldn't get the stop. Then we kicked the ball off. We're like, all right, well, we need a stop to start the third quarter. Could not get a stop. So this is just a much better team bullying us in our own field. And, I know it's Ernest Jones game 1, so I'm not going to be going too deep with what did I see in one watch, but the body moving was still what it was. We got pushed around up front when Allen was dropping back to pass. He had markedly more time than Geno to bring it back to Geno a little bit. And then when he had to create a little bit of space, a little bit of time, dudes were wide friggin' open. And, like Job or Joby, I heard them say Joby on the, in the game. Heard others pronounce it as Job during the week. He got picked on a bit. And you know what? Second game of the dude's career, I'd pick on him too. I don't know if you saw, Joby getting kind of picked on by Keon Coleman and some others out there as well.
Is it Joby or Job? Did we ever figure that out?
I would just say it is Job, but I heard them on the,
okay.
It was Brady called him Joby.
Yeah.
I would imagine he knows what he's doing, but who knows? Okay. It's a new.
All right, we'll go with Joby then. If Tom said it, I mean, he studied it all week, right? And he's Captain Prepared. I would think so. And all that. So
the commercial says he's ready. That commercial says he's ready.
That's right. Yeah, talking to himself like a crazy person. Yeah, that's a weird commercial. Well, before I get with a few of my thoughts on the defense, Clinton, I wanted to thank the 155 different people that are in here watching this live. All of you folks are going off like crazy in the comments, and I'm not going to lie, I can't keep a straight thought in my head when I start looking down the comments. So it's going to be hard for me to get through them, but really do appreciate you guys being there. Do you appreciate us coming on here talking about this game after what I believe is the most painful loss of this season so far? Please, hit subscribe, hit like. We really do appreciate it. Car comes in with the $4.99 super chat. I think the curse wheel got confused. This was an awful loss. Hoping for a dub against the Rams to bounce back next week and get right after the bye. I don't think, Clinton, that we can count on an easy peasy win against the Rams, and we'll talk about that later in the week. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Perna called off it was a fake curse wheel that he brought out just to screw me over for cursing his Broncos on the Russ trade. I think this was a reverse curse that he brought back upon us this week.
This is very, very likely the reverse curse, probably the long play by Perna, if we're thinking about it like logically. So that's probably right. And yeah, thank you, Car, because that is so nice of you. Yeah, it's and then there's, so we had drastic shoot yourself in the foot mistakes. We didn't really talk about them too much, but everybody knows what they are. Connor Williams 2 times over, snap over the head, and then tripping Geno at like the the 2-yard line. He goes backwards on 3rd down. So we kind of hit those. We kind of talked about our defense just getting manhandled, for lack of a better term, getting manhandled. There's probably a big third part that people want us to talk about. And I got to think that is Derek Hall's big ass blunder on 3rd down.
Yep.
and a super late hit to the head right in front of the referee. And then, of course, a pretty bad little fight with Jaron Reed. So just thoughts on that as you saw it happening. What was going through your head?
Yeah, stupid play. Can't be doing that crap. And Jaron Reed, being the old wily vet on this team, took took Hall aside and let him know how it was. Hall apparently didn't like that, and they got after it on the field. They got after it on the sideline. But I think what's important is that, you know, just a few minutes after that, you see them again speaking on the sidelines with Jaron Reed going over it with him and the young buck going, okay, yep, right. But a discipline penalty, like that's a lack of discipline penalty. And that's one thing that I'm seeing out of this Mike Macdonald defense that's really frustrating me. And this team as a whole is a lack of discipline. This is something that we were frustrated with Coach Pete. And here we are with Coach Mike. And it hasn't really changed. So once a coincidence, twice is a trend. I don't want to get to a third coach to find out. Like, I'm not out on Mike or anything like that. But this feels like a player problem, a locker room problem, an accountability problem between them. And that's super frustrating. In terms of just the defensive play as a whole, especially in the second half, you kind of went through a list of plays there. And really, it went a lot like this. The Bills were able to hit the quick short passing game to backs and guys just out in the flat.
Yep.
Hit that hard. Run with Cook with the tackle eligible plays that Brandon had pointed out from the stands there. And then once they did that and started sucking everybody up, then at that point, then it's a free-for-all for a big pass downfield to Knox, or to, on third down when you really need it, go pick on the new corner in Joby. And that's what they were doing. It's smart football. Like, everything they did in the second half offensively had our defense on a yo-yo. We didn't get jellied in this game. We got yo-yoed.
Yeah. That's it. Well, I feel we got jellied at times, but I agree, and I understand where you're going with the yo-yo, right? Because if you ever watch a good yo-yo master, like, they're in complete control, right? That's kind of the whole trick of it. And the beauty of it is they can keep momentum going when others cannot, right? That's the whole thing with the yo-yo, is whether you're high, low with it, et cetera, you have enough understanding how to spin that thing so that you just get that bounce when you need it. And, like, I love the idea you're saying. They sucked us right in. And then once that happened, a little play action and then over the top to Knox or down the seam. It was pretty masterful. Masterful is what it boils down to. And by the way, dude, I don't know if you just saw what just happened at the end of the Commanders game, man. Do you have an eye on that?
No.
Hail Mary from Jalen to win it. It got tipped up. I'm not sure who caught it, but the Bears took a lead late. This is like a 55, 60-yard Hail Mary, tipped up and then kind of to the back of the end zone. Touchdown Commanders. Bears' hearts are broken. Oh, EJ. I feel bad for EJ Snyder, but kind of feel good for the young Commanders with Jalen doing his thing with some broken ribs or some hurt ribs.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, good for the Bears for losing a game that they quote unquote shouldn't. That always makes me feel good. But kind of getting back to the Seahawks and all of that.
Took us out of this hellhole for just a second to celebrate a pretty miraculous play. So,
I mean, good for Jaden Daniels for sure. I think one of the things that is really frustrating to watch is the lack of consistency and the lack of discipline team wide. And that was one of the things that I was really hoping to see a massive difference in from Pete, because of all the things that I love about Coach Carroll. Winning his football coach in the history of the franchise, brought me my only title, loved his style, loved everything about his class. Pete Carroll is the greatest football coach in Seattle Seahawks history. Love him. With that said, the discipline towards the end and the lack of consistency was killing me. It was killing me. It's tough to watch. And it's the difference between bad to good, good to great. We talk about it all the time on this show. And I was really hoping to see progress in that area from Coach Mike. And I wouldn't say I'm seeing regression, but I'm definitely not seeing progression.
Yeah. I do want to hop in there too, because year one, it's interesting. And let's dive into it for a second. Cause I think analyzing this game any further is there's
Yeah, I think
there's
we're the big picture
yeah
time. Yeah.
yeah exactly. It's just it's diminishing returns to analyze this without looking at like things like particular plays and in particular players, which always tough. I have to rewatch. I'll watch some tape. With that though, when Carroll came in the first time, this was a bad roster. After the Jim Mora year, this was a bad roster, and it was very very evident. And they went and did it. That Snyder and Pete tore it down to the studs. They had the most active offseason like in the history of the NFL. The most, and they would pick up a dude for like a half a a cup of coffee. Next day they're gone. Play a guy. They were just like trying so much different stuff. Tore it down to the studs, and of course, then compiled a couple of great drafts in a row, and then got momentum after several years. People I think forget that, right? That it was like you had
Yeah.
the beast mode year, you had the win, but then you had another step back, and then it got good, right? When they got Russ, and it took several years to kind of start the engine and then restart the engine, but they really had to turn the entire roster over. To your point, Macdonald steps into I would say a much stronger roster. But if we're still seeing the discipline issues after the last few years of Pete, and then through a half a year with Macdonald, like you were saying, it's like, oh man, like I think this is the question I'm trying to get at. Are we closer to all right, good core roster, good core young roster, tweak it, everything's going to be cool, or is there going to be some panic mode of oh man, we got to tear it down to the studs and rebuild it in our imagery? Which one do you think, if you're McDonald right now, what do you think he's teetering on? Do you think he's even thinking about that?
Oh, I think he's definitely thinking about that. Halfway through the year, I think it is time to start to take a accounting of this team and where you are, where you think you can go this year, and what you might need to do next year to get better. With that said, there is a lot of young talent on this team. There
Yeah.
are pieces to build around. You do have a more than solid quarterback. You have one of the most elite running backs in the entire league. Whether or not they keep DK, I don't know this offseason. We will see. There's a lot to talk about within that. But
Mm-hmm.
I think first and foremost, if you're Coach Mike, you look at this, you listen to his pressers when he took the job. You listen to his pressers throughout even this week. We want to be physical. We want to be tough in the trenches. That's what we want to be as an identity. And they are a long freaking ways from that, Clinton. And we are good on the perimeter. We have a lot of good skill players, but where they really need to concentrate and put all of their time and effort is into the trenches, specifically offense at this point. And you will see a bigger change in this team, because I honestly believe that if you got three dudes in that can play just medium offensive line football next to Charles Cross, like another four dudes that can just play not crap the bed once a game like Connor Williams, or just completely unacceptable football like whoever Shorta Jarrell has been playing right tackle to this point. Get a journeyman like Tomlinson out of there. The amount of improvement that you will see in a team by improving the most fundamental building blocks of the football team will be an order of magnitude 10 times greater than getting another receiver or finding a better tight end or even trying to go get another quarterback.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's blow it all up time, because they are legitimately 4 players away from being a really, really good football team. The trouble is they're the hardest 4 players to find in the world right now in this league.
Yeah, we've got nice furnishings. We've got the more expensive windows. We got the sunroom. Maybe we have a nice deck and a pool. So we got the amenities on the outside. But just like a house built on sand, right? If you don't have a foundation, it ain't worth a lick when you go play quality teams. That's that the delta is ever more evident, right? You go play a quality team, a team in the Bills that I don't think will shock anybody if they either make a deep playoff run or they are the AFC representatives this year. That's the type of team they are. It's not just because not at all just because they have a good quarterback. They happen to have one of the best quarterbacks. That's a sound football team. And with that, the delta in structure and where they're good versus where we're weak, it's so friggin' evident, Adam. And like you said, I want to bring it back to the Rams and then probably close it out because we've been doing this, we're going at this now after a bad loss for a good half an hour. To spin it forward a little bit, look, I know you said on, I think it was either PNW Prop Stars, I think you mentioned it like, hey, the Rams are still dinged up, and they are, but they're also getting healthy. They got healthy quick. And Stafford, the light went back on for Stafford, and he gets back Puka and he gets back Cup, and lo and behold, and Kyron Williams can run the ball really, really well. And the Rams are just savvy at scheming and blocking. So if you're McVay, you're McVay. You just watched this game because you had a big win on Thursday night. What do you think McVay is going to want to go do quarter one, quarter two versus our Seahawks?
McVay will do what he's done against the Seahawks the entire time that I've been watching McVay, like take Pete Carroll's lunch, and I think about to take Mike Macdonald's lunch in this game. They're going to focus on running the football, the short passing game, especially the run everybody off, dump it to a back, or have a tight end pop out late over the middle stuff. And they're going to do that out of 11 personnel that looks the same every time. Unlike Grubb running 45 different formations a game, they're going to run it out of 11 personnel. They're going to get under center. They're going to run play action, and they're going to suck everybody up. Yes. And then Puka Cup is going to show up with a few huge plays after that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be, and it's going to be a bit of a replay, man. It's going to be a bit of a replay, which is bad news bears. So the thing that I think we could leave it on is like, look, it's season one for this whole new organization. There is talent there. It's 4-4. Go Cowboys. Like, sorry, I just vomited a little bit, but still they're playing the Niners. Go Cowboys tonight. Try to pull one off. Freaking Arizona comes back and gets another W. It's like, okay, things are jammed up in the NFC West, and the season's longer than it appears. There's going to be other twists, other turns, big injuries. It's the NFL. This is just a strange, strange league. Can we, as we start to turn the page on this and look forward to next week, my only question from the macro perspective is going to be, look, we're about to go play a very similar team that wants to do very similar things that we just got our hats handed to by the Buffalo Bills. You just said it. You just articulated it beautifully. How do we adjust? What is it going to look like next week when we go play a team that does very similar things with a very skilled quarterback? And, the Rams will just, whoever they have back on their offensive line, they somehow find a way to be pretty freaking stout. Right. And I think it's because of some of the things you're saying. How do we adjust? I'm not even asking you, how do we adjust? Yeah. I'm saying, will we adjust? Will we see it? Or we'll be back, 7 days from now being like, okay, cool. We just lost 34-20 to the Rams. We really were never in it. What do you think?
I don't know that there's anything to do. I don't know that there's some magic scheme or a magic acquisition or Ernest Jones being more comfortable in being around the team more that's going to fix it. I think that this is another 1.5 year long process to get to where we want to go. We're 8 weeks in, Clinton. It's not quite halfway, but it's halfway. This team is what it is now. Like, this is where we're at. And you mentioned the rest of the NFC West not being all that great and, being right in there. We're closer to
it's a log jam. That's what I mean. They may be pretty good talent wise. It might still be okay, but it's a log jam just record wise was my point.
Yeah. We're closer to the Cards than we are the Bills by like a long ways right now.
A lot. I agree.
And if the Seahawks are to make the playoffs this year, I think it's going to resemble a lot like the last Matt Hasselbeck team to make the playoffs with the Beastquake run and, losing record, win the division, get in, maybe you're 500 or a game above, but that's the ceiling for this team. This isn't a serious team. This isn't a serious playoff contender in any way. And we got to be able to accept that and move forward and give Mike a little grace and Grubb a little grace and, dirty a little grace to now work on it throughout the season. Look, you're not, we just know they just weren't a coach away from going and winning a chip. Like, we know that now. And I mean, I think we all kind of felt that anyways, but it's a fact, and that's where we're at. I want to see now going forward, even let's say they do go against the Rams next week and lose. I don't want to see them taking half the game to beat themselves as they did in the first half of this game. Like, if the Seahawks don't beat themselves throughout the first half, then all of a sudden this is still probably a loss with the way that the Bills piled on in the second half, but it's a very different ball game. And that's the type of progress I'm looking for.
For sure. Like, and I think it's a cool place to end it too. It's like, it's maybe it is, but maybe it's not, because the NFL is weird and games are weird. You start putting pressure on teams where the crowd is into it and it's wet out there. I mean, look, the next drive later, Allen's run the ball like a loaf of bread. He drops it, he kicks it, Pele style 20 yards downfield, and they fall on it. You know, it's like a little bit of fumble luck.
For a first down. That was 3rd and 5. The Bills were making big mistakes too in the first half. They just didn't hurt as bad. It's crazy.
Yeah, and they were able to very easily get over like a 1st and 20, just, you know, because we were just not as good as them, is what it boils down to. But to your point though, if we don't self-destruct, it's you don't know what will happen, because weird things happen in football games, and pressure matters. Pressure matters immensely in games like this. San Francisco game, fumble. Detroit game, fumble, I think it was, or, you know, just we are self-destructing, and obviously to our own detriment, because I don't think it's a good way to self-destruct. And when we play clean and we take the ball away, we win. When we play stupid and shoot ourselves in the foot, and just kill drives and kill momentum, we have not won this year. I know it's dead simple, but sometimes simple is right. It is the culprit. So that's what I'll be looking for too. I'll be looking for that. And then can we see a little bit different style on defense to you know, just put the Rams back on their heels a little bit and not let them dictate the game like the Bills dictated this game to us. So we'll see how it all goes. We got some time to breathe about it. And of course, you know, for the Seahawkers podcast, the entire network, we'll do a deep dive on Tuesday. We'll look at 3 in, 3 out. We'll look at 3 of the best plays that were here. We'll look at 3 of the, you know, under the cover worst plays that really hurt us. We'll try not to look at the glaring ones. Try to look at other things that also were good and not so hot. Then we'll do our preview show. We'll ramp that back up. You and Brandon will, of course, get the flagship 448 out this week, and we'll get into the whole rhythm. So we'll have What If with Mr. Phil. We'll have a flagship. We will we'll get PNW rocking for our props and parlays, and we'll be back at this, because this is how we do it. So win, lose, draw, Adam. We're gonna come back on here with 200 friggin' people that are passionate about this like we are, and we're gonna talk Hawks, because that's what we do, and we love doing it.
Absolutely. So look forward to that, folks. The full slate of shows. You can find all the shows here right on YouTube. If you are on the audio side of things, and the podcast side, you will find the flagship on the regular Seahawkers podcast feed, and you'll find all the rest of the shows on For the Hawker with the Believe Network. And that's been tripping some people up, so just wanted to put it out there.
Yeah.
But Clinton, a tough day. This is the worst loss of the season. I'm not optimistic in terms of this season's long-term future, but I am optimistic in looking forward to seeing Coach Mike grow, Grubb grow, Dirty grow, these teams or these players grow together as well. I just want to see the consistency grow going forward. And I think that's what I'm looking for in the Rams game. And I think you probably agree with that too, if I'm guessing right.
I agree with it so much that there's only one thing left to say, bud.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.